Hey everyone, welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks where do creative people come from. My name is Andy, I'm the host of the show, and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. I try to change the cadence every time. Now I've been doing that intro for, 10 years or so? I guess I could just record that specific bit and leave it there. But you know what? Part of the fun of having a podcast is saying the exact same thing at the top of the show. Every single episode. How are you? Edge of insanity. That's where I am. Between quarantine and the political situation. I came up with a thing this week. Things are about to get darker. I'm just going to say that. I don't think I have to justify too much. But I'm pretty sure things are about to get darker. And so all of us, while we are fighting the good fight, by the way, DSA having a big ol', I was about to say pledge drive, big ol' membership drive. So if you've ever been like, hey, I'd like to fight the good fight on the side of the right people, why not sign up for DSA? But anyway, while you're fighting the good fight, you gotta relax a bit. And I think now, in the calm before the storm, you should come up with some kind of plan. I had a dumb name. I called it a happiness plan, but I'm going to try to come up with something a little better. But you should have all the things, what's going to calm your mind. Like lately, I've been playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's a very expansive game, and it envelops you. And it helps you disconnect a little bit. You know what else helps you disconnect? Listening to podcasts. And very psyched because I love this episode. This is Psalm 1. If you don't know who she is, let me read you her bio right now. Psalm 1, a.k.a. Crystal Bowen, a.k.a. Hologram Kizzy, is originally from the south side of Chicago and was set to be a chemist before creating a hip-hop album for her junior creative writing project. Eventually, that album attracted attention, and she signed with Minneapolis indie hip-hop label Rhymesayers. They released her first album, The Death of Frequent Flyer, in 2006. But after a number of years, Crystal parted ways with them. She started releasing music on her own under a few different monikers, and her latest, as Psalm 1, Flight of the Wig, is one of the best of her entire career. I was screwing around on Bandcamp, I guess last year sometime. Just, following artists down rabbit holes. Like, you go to an artist you like, and then you go to, there's a little recommendation thing at the bottom. And it's like, if you like this artist, recommend it if you like. Anyway, I guess I was maybe looking up, Open Mike Eagle or someone, and found Crystal through that. By the way, Bandcamp. I am hard-pressed to find a better company. I hope this doesn't get milkshake ducked, and it turns out they've signed some kind of lucrative contract with ICE or something. But they seem to actually care about artists. They care about getting money to artists. They seem like they have a sustainable business model that isn't greedy. Anyway, I think they're great. And I like the fact that they actually, instead of having some kind of algorithm recommend you albums, they have a newsletter where they have actual humans recommending albums to you. Anyway, I think they're great. And I found Flight of the Wig, and I love everything that Crystal does, but Flight of the Wig is just so good. She's been on my list of someone I want to talk to for a while, and now that we're doing all these things remotely, I'm like, all right, now's the time. So I hope you enjoy this. We talk about her growing up in Inglewood and her journey to become a chemist and a rapper. So I hope you enjoy. If you do enjoy and you want to listen to other episodes, I've done, like I said, I think earlier, 10 years worth of episodes. If you're here because you like hip-hop, maybe you want to hear other interviews with rappers. So I've talked to Jean Grae, Samus, Open Mike Eagle, No Can Do, tons of other people from music and art, comedians, actors, writers. So check out all those episodes. If you like what you hear and you want to subscribe to the show, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Amazon, probably a million places, wherever you get your podcast from. And if you want to find me on social media, it's at Andy Beckerman. All right, enough of this. Great episodes coming up, though. Comics writer Cy Spurrier, Steve Conrad, the creator of the wonderful show on Amazon, Patriot, Owen Pallett from Arcade Fire and Final Fantasy, and a ton of other cool people, so stay tuned. But for now, let's talk to Psalm 1. So wait, you asked how I was. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Like, every emotion.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm good. I'm safe. Everyone in our house is feeling all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm good. I mean, like, a lot of different emotions every day, though.
Yeah, it's a cavalcade of negative feelings every day. Yeah. You just kind of like cycle through them. It's like it's like what are those called? Slot machine. It's a slot machine.
It's like, what are we gonna feel now?
Yeah. And every half an hour, you kind of pull the slot machine arm, and then a couple new emotions pop up.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's rough. I don't know. In some ways, I was always, as a Jew from a real Christian part of the country, I've been groomed to feel like this for most of my life. So I'm like, it's not too much different, but I guess the anxiety, and also like the anxiety over my future has always been there.
Sure. Like, that's something it's just exacerbated. Like, everything is kind of like, this pandemic has brought whatever feelings, like, exist, they just, like, multiply them,
Yeah. Actually, wait, let me see if this makes sense to you, or if this feels right. It's that it's made everything closer to the surface. Like, so much of my brain is going towards worrying and anxiety that I don't have enough energy to keep back a lot of shit. Yeah. And so it's like closer to, sure. I'm usually like pretty reserved, or I have like enough energy to like make myself reserved. Mm-hmm. But this has made it so that I'm more, the craziness is closer to escaping.
Yeah, the energy for sure, like that we're spending so much energy that we are not aware of, just keeping ourselves safe and keeping our minds sort of sound through this time, that I think that we all have less energy for, like, quote unquote bullshit, or kind of like the more, like, I guess, mundane parts of, like, communicating with people, we have less energy to fake it.
Yeah. You don't live in Chicago anymore, do you?
No, I live in Minneapolis currently.
How is that?
It's tough. I mean, this, like, latest civil rights remix started right here, and it was terrifying and beautiful and all the things that an uprising would be, I guess. I mean, I never lived through, like, meaning like it was up the street, like, I live in Chicago, and I've seen protests, I've seen riots for, like, the Bulls winning and the Cubs winning, but but police brutality is something that I'm all too familiar with. I mean, lots of my friends have endured it. My partner has endured it. My partner's family has endured it. A lot of my friends I've dealt with the police. I'm like, it's for me. I've had like a 75% like shitty like time with cops. I can't say that a cop has never helped me, because that would be a lie for me personally. But
sure.
More often than not, my experience with law enforcement has not been good. So I get it. I understood it. It wasn't, we were all terrified and upset, and it, you know, changed our lives in ways that are good and bad. It definitely helped me see the power of community more, because like we just live in neighborhoods now. Like there are no communities really, and at least that's what I thought. So after like these uprisings and stuff, community has really become and come back to the forefront of people's minds, and I think that that's good. It sucks that like tragedy has to, you know, happen for like people to get it together, but
Yeah.
you know, I have seen some wonderful things since then. So that's why I say I can have a roller coaster of emotions. I've had lots of joy this year too, but it's been in quarantine, which is kind of like this weird like mind fuck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it in my entire life I've seen giant protests do absolutely nothing, move the needle zero.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I think about like in my lifetime we had the World Trade protests, we had the Iraq War protests, and then, you know, Occupy Wall Street, which maybe like made people a little bit aware of how fucked up
what was going on.
yeah, that finances. But like none of that, I think outside of like maybe raising a little bit of awareness, it didn't do anything politically. And this is maybe the first time I've seen it move. I've seen mass protest both build solidarity among communities and actually start to move the needle politically a little bit.
Yeah. It's a big deal, and I mean it sucks. People are putting their lives on the line for this, and I think America, we are just at the breaking point of like, because I feel like win, lose, or draw, like, you know, we're gonna have some Trump issues no matter what in November. So like for me, it's more about just finding who, you know, we are in solidarity with, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know, it's gonna be an interesting time, and we gonna see we gonna see. But you know, for me, I'm happy that at least I can do my part in a little way, you know what I mean? And still, like, I haven't been completely like sucked dry of creativity, which is good, good, you know. So
I mean, that's the real challenge in this time is to have after you've done all the activism, do you have enough energy left? Activism and then like keeping up your actual life. Do you have enough?
No, and the answer is no. We don't have enough. There's never enough. But I think it's important to take breaks, and self-care is just, it is so much more important now than it's ever been, because, you know, even for me, like today I was, you know, dealing with just some feelings, you know, and was like, I need to get some stuff done. And I was just like, damn, I can't even go to like my favorite coffee shop anymore and just like hang out there because I'm scared. And like they don't have the same capacity that they once had. It's different. And I was like, damn, like I just, you know, like I've tried to make my home as comfortable as I can, like within reason. But, you know, some days I'm just like, man, I want to do just anything else, you know. So I think just taking a breath, like I just lay on the floor, man. I'll just lay on a yoga mat and just lay there for like 30 minutes or something. And that helps, you know. I meditate. I've been riding a bike. So I'm going to ride that until it gets cold. I'm trying to be outside as much as possible until, you know, before the winter that cometh. In the Minneapolis winters are fucking terrible, so.
Yeah. Did you, when you were growing up, I'm thinking about like neighborhoods now. You grew up in Englewood in Chicago, right? That's like the South Side?
Yeah, South Side of Chicago, yep.
I don't know a ton about it. I have some friends that wrote on the show South Side that are from around there.
Okay.
But beyond that, I don't know. I visited Chicago once, and I was mostly in like the Ukrainian neighborhood, I think.
Ukrainian Village? That's a nice little area. I used to live there. I lived everywhere in Chicago, though. But I grew up in Englewood.
Did you feel like a sense of neighborhood there? Did you like what was it like when
I
were
was a
up?
kid? When I was like a kid, like, but you know, the crack era was the same in damn near every American city.
Yeah.
So by like I was like 10 years old, it was dangerous, and you know, the community that was around was like, at least where I grew up, the house I grew up in, there wasn't so much of a sense of that except for like in the church, and we lived right behind a church. So the church community was always around. And then on my father's side of the family, the same. It was more about community activism, or anything would either be the church folks or, you know, some politician coming through to say or do something. So that was the only sense of community I got. But it was something, you know, I'm not going to dismiss it like it wasn't anything. It was something, because I do remember being in service, you know, to the community as a kid that went to church. So,
like, were you, was it religious? Did you go, like, did you have faith, or was it like, I have to go?
I think it was a little bit of both. When I was a kid, though, like, I'm an only child, so, like, my family, like, spoiled the shit out of me. Can I curse? I'm sorry. My family spoiled me so bad. So I remember having, like, a lot of nice outfits as, like, a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and I was like, where am I going to wear this, you know? And it's like, wear it to church and get my fits off, you know? So really, me growing up, I really just wanted to show off my fashions every month, every week. But my family, on both sides of the family, were very, very involved in church. So it's like, damn, like, I can't even be a little involved in church. I got to be, like, very involved because of my family's involvement. I did have faith for a long time, around 9/11, actually, like, when in 2001, I was in college, and I kind of lost a good amount of faith around then. But I will say, after fast forward, hitting rock bottom around 2016, my personal rock bottom, that not a lot of people are starting to understand my story a lot more now, but the last, I would say, 5 years for me have been tumultuous, like sex, drugs, rock and roll, everything. So I've actually had to pick myself up from, like, homelessness and all kinds of, like, just bullshit addiction. And it got me closer to spirituality and just my own personal faith. And I do believe in a God or an entity that is bigger than all of us. Now, is it a specific religion? No, I don't. I grew up Christian. I mean, my name is Psalm 1. It's like total Christian name.
Right.
So it is there. It is in me. I love Jesus. Jesus is my homeboy. However, as far as, like, do I subscribe to a certain, like, religion, I do not.
Did you, so is it that, like, you lost the faith, or it just kind of got papered over? I mean, this is a weird question. So
well, you're Jewish, right?
Yeah.
Are you practicing? Are you bad Jew?
Faith.
Okay.
I'm not a bad Jew. Judaism to me is like the moral project of Judaism. Like, to me, it's like being a good person, charity, doing good deeds.
I dated a Jewish woman for like 3 years back in the day. So, you know, we did Shabbat and everything. So
was she really observant?
She was a bad Jew. That's why I said that. She was, like, meaning she like you were saying, like, she subscribed to, like, the everyday values and, like, you know, what Judaism represents for, you know, the people that believe and everything. But was she going to synagogue every week and all that? No.
It's real boring. I'll be honest. Go in there. There's, like, a couple fun parts, but a lot of times it's like a lot of boring stuff, a couple good songs, and then small talk. I hate small talk. Like, afterwards, you know, you're sitting there, you have a plate of cookies and fruit and some punch. What was my temple always do? It was like a ginger ale punch. So
was it tasty at least?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I would run to the food and wait for us to say the, like.
It's like the snacks is what you're here.
Yeah. Look, that's most of my life, the moral project of Judaism and the food of Judaism.
Yeah, challah alone. Y'all did that.
Yeah. Challah, bagels,
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe just breads are like
The
top
breads,
foods.
y'all did good with the breads for sure.
But like, I never had actual faith. Whatever that feeling is, it's just absent in me. And I've tried to like really look inward and see what's there. And there's no connection. It's really it's suppressing in a lot of ways, because I think if you have faith, it gives you some kind of feeling of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're connected to something larger than yourself. You're connected to that, an outside force.
Faith is more just a knowledge that things are going to be whatever you have faith that they're going to be. Whereas hope is more like, like I hope things get better. Like, we'll see. But faith is more along the lines, just like, I know whatever happens, like, this thing is going to be okay, or whatever you're having faith in,
Yeah.
Like, oh God, it's so corny, but it's like, God is with us. God is within us. So it's like tapping into that, the God within us will activate the faith also,
Yeah. So did you always have that feeling and it just kind of got buried, and then after you hit rock bottom, I don't know if you mean rock bottom in like an AA type way, where like,
I never went to NA or AA, but shit, I mean, I was in places in my life where I probably could have used a meeting or two. You know what I mean? It's not a necessity for me anymore. Like, I've realized what my capabilities are with drug and alcohol abuse. I'm just not very good at it. I suffer from migraines. It's not good if you're a migraine sufferer and a drug user, it's like, come on, man, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't really work. So for me, just physically realizing that, hey, this isn't fun anymore, and kind of understanding what I needed physically, really realizing that it started up in there.
Yeah.
And then just seeing, getting my personal rock bottom was, I had a big situation with my former label happen, got dragged in the court of public opinion, and then I had a huge breakup, right, like maybe a month or two after, and then almost broke up with my group and had to relocate on the low, had a huge domestic violence event, all happening in the span of like 6 weeks.
Jeez.
And it drove me to like just some shitty places in my life, but actually coming to Minneapolis and just kind of hiding out for a year and a half helped me understand what it is I wanted out of like life and what I wanted out of being a musician. And after I kind of figured that I was going to still do music, but I had to do it in a different way than I ever thought before, and understanding that like what we want sometimes isn't what it looks like, but we can't pretend that it, isn't a blessing or isn't like what we wanted just because it's not what we look like. Like I wanted to be a musician before I ever had any like label trouble, you know what I'm saying? So me getting through that and realizing I'm still a musician, I still want to be a musician, and there are still people out there who care that I'm a musician. So what does that look like moving forward? And then figuring out how to be happy, how to have peace. Like for me, I chased peace so much because that's what I knew I was lacking in my life. So just by chasing the peace, I got all kind of other stuff, And faith was one of those things. I'm not like some faith master. Like I'm cynical as shit. Like but there are some things that I'm just like, I'm okay. This is already written. This is fine.
Yeah, but you kind of just through this process, through this like intense, kind of traumatic part of your life, you kind of rediscovered the faith.
Yeah, because I got through it, and there were times where I didn't have any faith that I was going to get through it. And then like shit just started getting better. Like little things in my life got better. It wasn't like I was asking to somehow be famous, I was asking to be happy for those people around me who were getting famous. 'Cause that was a big thing too. Like I back in the day when I started my recording career, I kind of like shot in front of my peers. And then like I saw a lot of my peers surpass me, and the ego gets bruised in that. A lot of rappers pretend that they're not like bitter as fuck, but they are. So for me, I just was like, I don't want to be a bitter ass, you know what I'm saying? Like rapper who's just like, well, you know, such and such ain't that dope. Like what? Like what is that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on. Like there are worse things to happen in your life than not being a famous fucking rapper. Like I just had to realize that like my life was like so good if I just took out this big like idea that like maybe somebody's gonna blow up one day. Like no, like you are a working musician, you've traveled the world pre-Rona, you've done a lot, you know what I mean? And like you made your family proud, you made yourself proud. Like what more do you really want when it comes to like being famous? Because I don't even really want that either. Like when I really thought about that, I was like, I see some of my famous friends and I'm like, I don't want to go through that shit. They can't tweet. They can't fucking say anything. They can't fucking go anywhere. It's just like, nah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, it's like I'm more about making an honest living being a musician and then being able to fund projects that are outside of rap. Because I'm an artist. I'm a creative. I do other things. But, you know, rap is something that is foundational for me. And I do have a fan base that cares. And I want to cater to that as long as I have one, you know.
It's really, really difficult. You know, we moved out to Los Angeles from New York in middle of 2017. And I thought I kind of knew what this business was. And then I got out here and it's like staring you right in the face, like the Eye of Sauron or something. And you're just like, oh, shit. I did not realize how sociopathic this was and that it had it's not a meritocracy. It's not even slightly a meritocracy.
Nah.
It is not at all. To see like people... I mean, I would say the bitterness is real. It's really difficult to grapple with when you see people who are, I would say, like talentless, outright talentless succeed.
Absolutely.
And you know they're talentless because you've seen them up close.
Yeah, you worked with them maybe.
And you're like, oh shit, this is just smoke and mirrors, and the smoke and mirrors are the things that elevate you. In any whatever creative business, you know, so I'm even thinking like, even in I thought I have a friend that works for Major League Baseball, and I was talking to him. I'm like, do you think sports are like the only real meritocracy? And he's like, even in sports,
it's not.
Yeah.
lot of good athletes on the bench for stupid reasons.
Yeah, and it's like, I think grappling with the realities of making art for a living is like one of the most difficult things.
It is statistically, it's just as hard as any other like really difficult job, like being a surgeon. Like the percentages of like successful like 1% surgeons is like, you know, like people go to med school and they have varying levels of that. You know, there's a lot of people who started off as surgeons and they're, you know, possibly registered nurses or something. Now that's way lower down on the totem pole of like doing surgery, but you're still in healthcare, you know what I mean? So a lot of great artists are sound men. You know what I mean? So I mean, it just goes with what you want. And then the people who do want to be like super famous, like that's the craziest competition ever because it's not all like talent based.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other things at play. So I do applaud people who make it because I do know how hard it is. Now there are some people who are just like, oh, your dad did this or your mom did this, you know. But like, you know, for the most part, I've learned to count my blessings because like you get famous and then you got to stay famous. That's the hard part.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is a mind fuck. Like, it really is.
Yes. I've definitely been on the cover of a magazine and was riding the bus the same day. That's a mind fuck. I'm like, is this fame? What is this? Why am I not rich?
Oh, yeah. And also the money, like, you think that, like, that equals, like, being well-known equals having money. And I
Never.
No.
Never. A lot of broke-ass famous people, too, you know?
Especially, like, another thing that, like, you don't realize how... I don't know what it's like... I don't know exactly what it's like in hip-hop, but, like, you know, your manager, your agent, your lawyer take out a cut of the money.
Yes, chunks.
and
chunks.
then you get taxed on that, on what's left, and then you get what's left over.
Yeah, the artist is the last to get paid.
So wait, but you were a chemist, right?
I was.
And you went to school for chemistry. Did you do that as a backup, or was it like, I really like chemistry?
Yeah, I wanted to be a chemist. And then like my junior year, I put out a EP and like sold it and was like, oh, am I in the music business now? And then like I minored in rhetoric, creative writing, and my final project was my first album. And I didn't go to class the whole semester. I was so cocky about this. I was just like, I'm not even gonna go to class. I'm gonna just show up during finals with an album. And I did it. I got an A+ and was like, oh, nah, I'm about to be a rapper. And I did go home. I did become a chemist. I was a chemist for like a year and a half before I started taking like meetings and stuff for deals, as they were, you know?
What was it about chemistry, like, when you were younger? Like, at what point were you like, oh, I really like chemistry. I really like balancing equations.
Yeah, I said chemistry just because it sounded good. And then when I entered high school, I took biology first, and I didn't like it. And I was like, And then one of my teachers actually was very intuitive and was just kind of like, I see how your mind works. You're not doing great in biology because you don't like it, not because you can't get it. And then she was like, maybe you should do chemistry. And I was like, I always wanted to try it. And then I got in there. I took chemistry the next semester and loved it and just fell in love with it. So it was just kind of like, that was that. So, which is ridiculous because it's like the hardest class for anyone I know. It was like, chemistry sucks. Like, I know.
I loved chemistry. I took.
Okay, cool.
I did AP chemistry.
Right.
And then after that, I had done all the sciences in high school. And so I took an independent study with the chemistry teacher. And just kind of like, I sat in the chemical room and read books on like nuclear chemistry and stuff while she was teaching a class. So yeah, no, I'm kind of like curious about this too, because like I originally went to school, I was going to be a physicist. I liked physics.
Yeah.
And then in my first year, I took a philosophy class, and I was like, oh, I like philosophy. So I did philosophy of science, and then the whole time I had been doing comedy on the side. And that's what I asked if like...
So you're a genius.
I wouldn't say so.
Neither would I, man. People say that shit to me all the time. They're like, oh, you did art and science. I'm like, yes, I'm a complete genius.
If I had a little more confidence, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
But,
just like I just have too much in my brain that I like.
Yeah. Do you think? But this is something I was that popped into my head. I don't know if it makes any sense or not. But like, do you think there's any connections between like being good at coming up with rhymes and the same part of your brain that like is good at chemistry, good at rapping?
Yeah. Yeah, just kind of from formatting to editing to how making a rap or making any sort of artistic thing is kind of like synthesis. So it's like starting out with nothing and ending with something, It's like engineering, But yeah, like I've always kind of adopted a very like kind of strict way of how I put together my rhymes and stuff. And I think that comes from like I was learning how to make like full projects at the same time where I was like really studying chemistry hard, and I was using one to decompress from the other. So I was like making music to kind of like let my brain relax from the stress of a chemistry major, because that was once sophomore year was over, like I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like I was just like, I'm so smart, I'm good. I took AP chemistry, I'm good. So freshman year, I was like, wasn't hard, the chemistry curriculum. Sophomore year was a little harder, but I still was like cool. Junior year was like orgo, and I was like, I'm stupid. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, so for me, college was a lot of studying. and making music was a way for me to like relax.
Yeah, I was the same way. I kind of breezed through up until about sophomore year, and I took this class. I was real cocky about science, and I took this class that was reading like the original papers of like Einstein and Heisenberg and Schrodinger, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I started reading their papers, and I'm like, oh fuck, these are so difficult. I don't have the math. I don't have the capacity to understand anything they're doing.
They're like making up math for the science.
Yeah, they're creating it, and I had no idea what was happening. Like I remember reading like, is it Rutherford that did like the experiment where they like the gold scattering experiment? I think it's him, Ernst Rutherford, if I remember correctly.
I remember these names because Ernest Rutherford was a British physicist, and he was a father of nuclear physics.
Yeah, I read
and
that.
And they did like the model of the atom or whatever.
I had to go to office hours every week because I was just so out of my depth. And that was when I realized I had to start actually working.
Yes, and it's fucking sucks because it's like you've already gotten a taste of like breezing a little, and then you're just like, shit, dog. Like I remember my first final where I like drank coffee all night. And I was like your complexion when I was walking in to the test the next day. My friends were like, what happened to you? I was just like, this is like the first time I really had to study, and this shit is it's fucking me up. I got one F academically ever, and that was in organic chemistry. And I almost had to change my major, but I was like, nah, this not happening. So whatever I have to do to convince y'all to keep me on my track, you know, to get all my credits. So they were like, well, if you get a B or better in physical chemistry next semester, we'll keep you on your track. And I did. I ended up getting an A in physical chemistry, which for some reason the professors at the U of I was like, she's definitely smart, because there's no way you can get an F in Orgo and then get an A in physical chemistry. Like, a lot of people just don't do that. Mm-hmm. So I was able to like get that C average and then like work it up for the rest of my time there. And I actually had to end with physics because I was saving that for last, because I actually love the ideas of physics, but I don't like calculus and I don't like circuitry. Like, circuitry is, I'm just like, I don't care. Yeah. But I understand why it's needed, and I fuck with engineering, and I have friends who are double E and everything, but like when it came to that, I was just like, oh God, take me now. I fucking hate this shit.
Oh, yeah. That stuff always bored me. What I liked about physics, I liked cosmology, and I liked understanding, like, where the universe came from, and that part of physics.
So you're a hippie, is what you're saying?
I don't think that... I would not call myself a hippie in any way.
I'm like, bro, just take DMT, bro. You can learn that. I'll learn that in 15 minutes.
It's like there's... I always want to know, and I think that's why I moved over to philosophy, because I felt like philosophy was like a good explanatory framework for like what the fuck is going on. That's always been the like, why is everything the way it is? Has always like been this deep question in my brain.
See, man, I was gonna minor in philosophy, right? And I took philosophy 101, and I was doing great at it. I actually got a good grade, but at the end of it, our professor was like, y'all want to know what the meaning of life is? And everybody was like, yeah. And he was like, y'all sure? Like, yeah. They were like, there is no meaning. Class dismissed. And we were like, the fuck? Like, it sucked. We were just like, I hate this.
I love that, because he's right. There is no meaning.
Totally.
And then I really like the kind of like existentialist idea, which is like, you create your own meaning. You create the meaning, and then again, this goes back to like, the morality of Judaism, where it's like you act as if the morality that you are should be the morality for everyone, and then in your actions you are showing what you think the world should be like. Mm-hmm. So if you're a shitty person, you think the world should be shitty.
A lot of people think that way.
Yeah, and a lot of them happen to be in charge of things.
Like, they're in control of our future.
But I really thought philosophy and physics to me, and then once I kind of like had like an inkling of what was going on, I was like, all right, I can go do comedy now. I kind of understand the basics.
Like, I'm okay.
Yeah, I get it. String theory or, quantum mechanics. I got the basics. I don't need to know how to do like 12-dimensional physics.
Nah.
I get that. Yeah, I have the understanding of it. It's that's enough for me. But like, when you were younger, did you have this kind of analytical mind when you were a kid?
Yeah. But I think also my head was like really like in the clouds and imaginative as well. Because I was an artist. I was a visual artist, and I did a lot of that type of stuff. And I did like sing in the choir and do a lot of creative stuff. But I knew I liked school, but also added layer. Like, I was a spoiled child. An only child who, once I got like good grades, my family would like bribe me to get good grades. Mm-hmm. So it was just incentive for me to like do well in school. So I think by design, I was a little bit more analytical. I just think the way I was raised and the kind of positive reinforcement I got, also like through church, I just was like, I'm gonna be a good kid. I was like, but I was sneaky as hell, so I think that probably made me analytical, like just always like trying to cover my ass when I did do stuff when I thought my family wouldn't like it.
Like what?
Just like going to a friend's house that I shouldn't have been over, or like, little dumb kid stuff, Like, I remember once, my mom will hear this, but once I remember, like, I ran my car into the garage and like lied about it, but I feel like my mom knew it was me. But like little dumb shit like that,
Yeah.
But a fear of scrutiny did. I mean, as I was in therapy later, years later down the line, like, I had a real fear of scrutiny, and also being like a potentially popular rapper, a lot of scrutiny there and a lot of fear of that. So I had to like kind of, get over that.
Yeah. No, I mean, so it's like good kid trouble. It's the same thing I did, right? I had
nothing
good
crazy.
Kid trouble. Right.
Yeah.
And but it's the same thing. It is that fear of scrutiny, and it's actually like, I think about it a lot of times. I'm really scared to talk to people. Like when I went to grad school, and I was scared to talk to the professors there. I was scared to talk to whenever I meet like a showrunner here in Los Angeles, or like a famous comedian or something like that. I'm scared to talk to them because I'm afraid, like, within 5 minutes they'll realize I'm a fraud in some way.
Like, get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Like they'll be like a Sandman with a hook pulling me out of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to like that kind of scrutiny from childhood, right? Where like,
there is a bridge there for sure.
Yeah. But like, but here, did you kind of live in your head? You said you were like really imaginative. Like, did you live in your head? Because the only reason I'm asking that is like, was like you said when you were growing up, Englewood, like the crack epidemic, did it happen in your lifetime? Like, did you see Englewood kind of go downhill?
Yeah. Yep. I saw that in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and gang violence in Chicago, that was like really bad in the early 90s. Like, I was there, so yeah, it was crack and it was gangs in Chicago too. Gangs were really fucked up for a while.
Yeah. My wife's from Harlem, and when I went to this one community meeting when I started to get into activism, and this was just like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And I didn't realize this, but like Harlem was divided up. Like there was at this community meeting, there was like a map, and it showed how Harlem had been divided up by gangs. They're like, oh yeah, this gang runs this part of Harlem, and this gang, and I'm like, oh shit,
fighting over territory that don't actually belong to them,
Yeah, well, I would see people riding like ATVs up like Saint Nick and stuff like that. But like, I asked that question because I'm wondering, like, if you're growing up in a neighborhood where you kind of have to be on your toes, you can't live in your head too much.
I was very sheltered, overprotected. I stayed at home a lot. I was a latchkey kid. I was alone a lot. My mom worked a lot. And then when I was like when I was starting high school, my mom was starting her college. She went back to school when I was a kid. So there was just a lot of the idea that education would see us out of any like bad situations, including like where I grew up is in Inglewood. We still have the family house there now. It's a terrible neighborhood, you know, when you talk about that, but it's a place where I grew up and my family is there. And for me, yeah, I definitely did not like the outside of, you know, my house, but I did like my house. So I was there a lot. So I was in my head a lot. I was in my room a lot. I was dreaming of, you know, being on TV sets or just listening to a ton of music. I never wanted to be on TV per se, but I always like imagined myself on the set of any of the shows that I liked. And then kind of like dreaming about what my like dream house would be when I was a shorty. So it was a lot of like me dreaming about what my future would be, because I always felt that like there was more for me outside of like the hood. And that was also because my mom sent me to private school. So I was like this weird mind fuck of like growing up in the hood but then going to private school with rich kids. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to tell Naomi's story, but that's exactly her story. She grew up in Harlem, and then she went to Dalton, which was like a fancy private school on the Upper East Side. And
it is a mindfuck, and you have like this duality, you know?
Was the private school predominantly white?
The first private school I went to as like a super little kid, yes. I was like the only black kid in the whole school, which was like wild. But then I went to like a kind of like a bougie black kid private school. So it was like not just black kids. It was like all races of kids, everybody. But it was really diverse. It wasn't majority white. And then I went to like advanced programs like by like 8th grade and stuff. So like I was always around like a diverse group of smart kids.
Yeah.
But I lived in the hood, so it was like, yeah.
Yeah, so I have to imagine like the kind of like class differences.
Ugh, that's what it was. I was like ashamed of my house growing up. So I think that's why I would be in my head dreaming of what I, you know, wanted or how I wanted. Because like my house was like inside my house was fine. Every one of my friends had more. Like every single one of my friends had more than me. So it was just like, kind of like sometimes like, damn, I want to have my friends over, but I was like ashamed to bring them to the hood, you know?
It's like, I really think these class differences in America, we like barely ever talk about them, but like it really like screws with your brain, because like I would go to like friends' houses who were wealthier, like, and I grew up pretty like solid middle class. Right, I didn't want for anything, but I didn't have anything fancy. Mm-hmm. But I would go to like friends' houses who were just like very wealthy. Like I remember one friend had like the front of their house had columns.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like,
that's when you know. You're like, God damn. What your mom do? What your dad do?
And I would just feel like I was less than, like going there, and like I was like anything I would do was wrong in some way, that I didn't know the rules that they operated by.
Right.
And I have to imagine like you're going to school and you're I don't know if that's the exact feeling that you had, that like it like that you had.
It fucked with me. It fucked with me just only because I didn't feel like, the cool thing about my friends, they never made me kind of feel like less than. It wasn't until high school where kids are just, you know, mean as hell and they'll say dumb shit and you just be like, fuck you. But like as like a middle school kid, it was a lot. I would go over my friends' houses a lot, and then I just felt bad sometimes because I would just be like, damn, I can never bring them home, which wasn't the case either, because I remember I only had I can remember twice in my whole, you know, school career I had friends over. That's it. 2 times my whole time. And both times it was fine. Like I remember my friend at the time, like she came over and spent the night. She was like, your house is nice. And I was just like, And then thinking back, her house wasn't necessarily nicer than mine. Her house was just in a better neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Because, like, that was one thing with me, too. I'm like, well, shit, if I'm living in a shitty neighborhood, my household, like, my house gonna be as clean as it can be. Like, I personally, Crystal, would, like, you know, decorate and feng shui and, like, make sure everything was clean, because I think it helped me deal with the fact that, like, I was living in, you know, a neighborhood that, like, none of my friends lived in, you know?
Yeah. So what were your parents' jobs when you were growing up?
Well, my dad passed when I was 2, and my mom, she worked for a bank until I was, like, maybe, like, 9 or maybe, like, 12-ish. And then my mom went back to school. And then by the time I was, like almost done with high school, she started working as a journalist and has been a journalist since the mid-90s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So for most of your life, she's been a journalist.
Most of it, yes.
Oh, that's really cool. What, does she work for a paper, or, like, I mean, now,
Yeah.
I guess, like a
website?
website?
Yeah, exactly. She works for the Chicago Crusader, which is a black-owned paper on the South Side. And she worked for a couple other, like, smaller, publications back when I was in school. But, yeah, she's been working for the Chicago Defender for over a decade.
So there's a certain look. I don't like to draw one-to-one, like, linear kinds of things, but, like, when you're a journalist, like, you have to hustle. You have to, like, there's a lot of, like, you know, finding sources and writing stories and stuff like that. And I have to assume you learned something from that.
Oh yeah, and I learned how to talk to the press, which has been very instrumental in my career, you know, because I'm not a very popular, as it were, artist, but I get great press for the most part. And I have a lot of friends who not friends, but, you know, industry friends. But I pay respect to good music journalism. And I've written a few articles of my own. So, like, I come from, like, my dad was a writer, rest in peace. My mom is a writer. My grandmother, we didn't even know she was a published author until she died. Like, there was, like, at her funeral, they were like, yeah, you know, she was an author. We're like, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? So, I come from, like, a long line of writers.
Wait, what did your grandmother... Okay, hold on. Okay, one, what did your grandmother write? What did your dad write? And then...
No, my dad didn't write any books. My dad just wrote.
But he just wrote. But, like, what are you... Like, poetry or...
Poetry, like, and songs.
What did... And your grandmother wrote a book?
Yeah, but I don't remember the name of it. And she put it under a pseudonym, so it wasn't even... It was, like, because it was back in the day, and they didn't publish women as easily. So she, like...
Right.
She, like... used her middle name was Henry, so she used Henry as the first name of the author. I gotta find out what's the name of it, because it was like one of those out of print things, but we found out at her funeral that she had a whole other life as an author.
So, okay, and then what did you learn in how, like, because I don't know how to talk to the press. Whenever I have to do, like, anything promotional, I just kind of, like, shrink. And I'm like, we have a thing that we're doing. It's nothing much.
Yeah.
What did you learn? Like, how did you learn to talk to the press? Like, what are the things?
I think it just helped that I had a chemistry degree coming into rap, because that was, like, the story.
Right.
A lot of rappers back then weren't college grads. A lot of rappers came from the hood, but not a lot of rappers came from the hood and were college grads and were, like, chemists. So that alone piqued the interest of a lot of journalists. So when I first started rolling out stuff, that was, like, a big part of it. And just the fact that I'm, like, I am well spoken. I have spoken to the press, like, in my academic career. And then I had friends who were, like, journalism majors. My mom would always talk to me about her interviews and what the press had to do on their end to get things published. So I think I just always had an organic, like, curiosity and a respect for good journalism. So I would always, like, that was, like, has always been kind of some of my favorite parts of just being an artist, just talking to the press about my shit.
Yeah. So, but like, so you basically grew up, it was just you and your mom.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised by, aunts and family members who, it was like one of those village situations. So I was raised by, family members. But yeah, my mom's single mom, only child situation. Weirdness.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have a good relationship?
Yeah, we do.
It's just,
but I kept a lot from her though. So I think that was why we had such a good relationship. As I'm getting older, we've become more open with each other.
Like, what do you mean you kept a lot? Just like mischief?
Being queer, drug use. Both those are two huge ones.
Right.
But she knows all that now.
Was she, once you started talking about like who you were, about your identity, right? Yeah. Was she fine? Well,
No, she wasn't. Not at first. She definitely wasn't very accepting. I mean, she didn't want that for me. She wanted me to have like a husband. You know what I mean? But I am bisexual, and I think she's realizing like that is a thing. So I could still have a husband. So my mom is way more accepting now, because I think parents just worry about their kids having a hard life. Now, I think it was less religious, because at first I think she was trying to hide behind Jesus, like, Jesus don't like it. But now she's just more like, I want you to be a safe and healthy, individual with, and not have a hard life. But it's like, you can't stop your kids from having any sort of trials or tribulations based on their identity, It's like mom, like, identity problems, like, I'm still a black woman. That's an issue in this country. So it's like, you can't be scared of me being queer,
By the way, I've read the New Testament. Jesus doesn't have any problem. I've read what he said.
I think Jesus might have been a lot more accepting of, but you know what? I can't say that, because you know what? They're gonna drag me. They'll be like, "What are you saying about Jesus?"
I can say
Jesus was a guy. Jesus was a party boy.
I could say it. I've read it. All right. I've read it. He has no problem. His whole message is love everyone, love your neighbor, turn the other cheek. I've read it. There's nothing in there that's like hate people.
Yeah.
Like there's parts where he gets angry at the people, at like corrupt people in power. Right?
Yeah.
So everything that he says seems to be great as far as I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus is cool.
But your relationship growing up, as much as you like hid parts of yourself from your mom, you guys had a good relationship.
Yeah, we bonded on many other things,
Like what?
Travel. Like, my mom took me like lots of places as a kid. Just making it very clear that like I had a chance to better my life and the life of even the people around me through like my mind. Mm-hmm. She stressed education hard, but I think for me personally it worked. And then just, it's corny to be like, you can be anything you want, but like seeing my mom being like, I want to do journalism, and seeing her do it, it definitely showed me that like you could like put things together and put things in place to better your life and do the things you want to do. And film, books, like just Black culture, but not just Black culture, because my mom was just a fan of entertainment. Would take me to plays, the opera, nice fancy restaurants. I think she just didn't want, like, I think my mom just didn't want like any dude to be super impressive to me, like on a first date. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people get over impressed by things that are like stupid, like a fancy dinner, you know what I mean? So I think my mom wanted to show me like a lot of the finer things in life growing up, So one might call that bougie, and I'll take it. But I think my mom and I bonded on just like wanting to experience the good things that life has to offer outside of the hood that we lived in.
Yeah. Did she date at all at any point?
Yeah, my father passed when I was like 1.5, and then she had married. She married again. That did not work out. That was like a bad marriage thing. And then she dated, but my mom kept a lot of her relationships away from me until she was like knew that the guy was gonna like be around. There wasn't like a bunch of guys that I met that were like dating my mom, but I knew she dated. There were periods where she wasn't, and I remember there was a period where she had like a long distance relationship for a couple years. So that was interesting to watch. And I actually fast forward to like my college years, I was in a long distance relationship for like 2 years too. So
So, but like, did you learn, like, I only in adulthood do I realize I've kind of patterned my relationships in some way on my parents. In some way. I'm like, like my wife and I are a lot more open emotionally, I think, than my parents
than your parents. Yeah, and you probably like learned that or unlearned some stuff, you know, as you navigate your own marriage.
Couples therapy. We are in. It is great.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'm a big advocate for all kind of therapy.
Yeah. When did you start therapy?
2017.
So it was like as like after all these kind of like that traumatic period happened.
Yeah, I came here because I was like I'm gonna kill somebody if I stay in Chicago. This fucking sucks. And I came to Minneapolis to kind of like hide out with a friend. And the longer I stayed here, the better I felt. But then when I decided to move here permanently, I like was running into people from my former label and was getting triggered a lot and was realizing, damn, okay, I dealt with my personal trauma, but I never really dealt with my professional trauma. And I can't deal with both and be like a good partner. And I don't think I'd be very nice to myself. And I felt like a little bit of the depressions coming in. So I went to a walk-in clinic and just started the process of getting a therapist.
Do you mind if I ask what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, with my label shit.
Yeah.
Or basically, long story short, I signed to a label in 2006. I was the only woman ever signed to the label. They're just like a super boys club, and I never felt that I was treated equally. And it's hard to prove when you're a rapper, and like rap is so misogynistic and so competitive that it's hard to be like, y'all not treating me right. They're like, shut up, bitch, you hoe. You know what I mean? It's like how do you? There's no HR. There's no fucking HR for rappers. They're just not. There should be. You know what I'm saying? But for me, it was just like, you know, I had some HR issues. I spoke about it in the press, and but it was also because I was omitted from a huge arena show, and it felt personal, and it was professionally embarrassing, and it was like professional embarrassment number like 395, and I was like just tired of, you know, a lot of people have professional like issues like with their companies or whatever. They just don't say anything in public. You don't get very far by like criticizing a huge company. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I very carefully criticized them, but was subsequently kind of like blacklisted, and was very triggering because I got dragged in the court of public opinion. When you're dealing with a cult following, I don't know if you've ever like gone up against a cult following. It is harsh. So like that plus drug use plus a big breakup plus domestic violence, all that kind of like went into a powder keg of like me just being like fucked up for a while. I was into coke really bad. I was into Molly and was drinking a lot. So just a powder keg of bullshit, and ended up really having to like think about like my life. Like, am I going to survive this? You know? So coming to Minneapolis was a way for me to get clean of like the drugs and shit.
Yeah.
So I got clean here just on my own. I didn't go to rehab or anything. It was just I was away from that scene, in Chicago, it was just like the scene was fucking me up.
Right.
And here I wasn't in the scene because I had already said that shit about Rhymesayers, which is the label. So coming here, it was like I was laying low. So I was able to deal with myself by laying low. But then when I decided to, like, you know, emerge and be like a human being again, I was getting very triggered just being in the same city of a label that I criticized before because I was still feeling the effects of it.
Yeah. But I do think it's interesting, like, you are making incredible music, like, coming out of this. Like, the stuff you're making is just incredible.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't, when I wrote you, I wasn't kidding. That, like, I listened to Flight of the Wig, like, all the time. It's so good.
Thank you. That's like the first album. That's the first album I felt comfortable making in like 4 years. Yeah. So it was. I had a lot to say, and it's a short album because it's like, you know, attention spans these days. But I just wanted to show myself that I was better. It was the first album that I I just did everything. You mean I outsourced things, obviously, but I was in full 100% creative control, and I wasn't trying to make an album for any label or any sound or, radio or anything, you know. It was really just to show myself that I could do it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of, like, determination, like, that thread is through your entire life, right? Like, I think back to, like, when you said you got that F in organic chemistry. Yeah. And you're like, oh no, I'm gonna kill.
Yeah, what do I gotta do? Yeah.
And then it goes back even further, I assume, to like your childhood in some way. That kind of
possibly. Yeah, I cannot recall any huge great trauma. I remember loss as a child, but I can't recall any like huge great trauma that I had to personally deal with then. But I just think that the whole coming out of the hood and doing good, that's rare. It's less rare than, you know, we hear about in the media. But for the most part, a lot of people who grow up in the hood stay there, and it's generation after generation of family that never get out. So I made it out based off of like my education and my talent, and as you know, that's some determination shit right there. So yeah, I would say that, you know, education, and then I don't know, dealing with the patriarchal rap industry and being upset at that.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucked up. Like, I've seen a little bit of it in comedy, right? There's no HR in comedy either, right?
Oh, God, no. Yeah, of course not.
And there's just like, I mean, we can talk off air because it's not my story to tell. But for sure. Yeah. But Kristen, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
It was great talking to you.
It was great talking to you as well.
And we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye, oh bye, oh bye, oh bye, oh bye.